Hello, GMI family. My name is Bobby Lee, and I'm an elder here at GMI, and I've been serving in the English ministry. I started to attend Grace Korean Church in 1985, and under our founding pastor, Pastor David Kim, I fell in love with this church, and I especially love the way that Pastor Kim had a passion and a heart for missions. And I knew deep down in my heart that God desired me to be a financial steward for missions. I knew I didn't have a calling to be a missionary, but to be a financial steward, that's where I felt God was calling me to do. As a young Christian, I really never understood what it meant to be a financial steward. I just kind of felt that this is what God wanted me to do. And so I thought, one day I'll just make a lot of money and then I'll give to missions. That was what I thought a financial steward would be. And so, I never understood the concept of tithing. And to be a financial steward and be faithful in my tithing. And so what I realize now is before I can be a financial steward for missions, I need to honor God in my tithes. Doesn't matter if you have a calling to be a pastor or a missionary or a financial steward. We need to honor God first in everything, and most definitely in our finances. See, I didn't fully understand tithing until about the year 2000, when I was about 31 years old. A little career history before we continue. Starting off my career, I was working at Innovent Microsystems in 1999. And at that time, in 1999, I still didn't understand tithe, and I wasn't tithing. I was simply giving offering, giving something like $50 in the offering basket consistently. And I thought that was honoring God, but it wasn't 10%. It was just simply an offering. It was just something that I felt comfortable giving. And so now in moving forward with my career, in July of 2000, this is when God really wanted me to fulfill my role as a financial steward. But the thing is I just failed to see the picture. I failed to see what God was doing in my life. In July of 2000, Innovent Microsystems was bought by Broadcom. Broadcom Corporation was a public company, and Innovent was a private company. And so Broadcom acquired Innovent. Innovent gave me stock options. And so once we became Broadcom, my stock options now became worth something. Broadcom at the time was selling at $124 a share at the time in July of 2000. So on paper, I immediately became a $3.4 million worth in my life. And so because of the stock options, but because it was in stock and has a 4-year vesting period, it was still just in paper. But you see, this is when my pride kicked in. This is when I felt I finally did it. All of my hard work paid off, and now I am a millionaire. And so I felt this tremendous pride, and I felt a tremendous accomplishment in my life. But I failed to see what God was doing in my life financially. And then if you guys remember the dot-com bubble, this was the time of the dot-com bubble. The peak of the bubble was in the year 2000. And like all bubbles burst. Broadcom stock started to spiral down, and it spiraled down in 2001, April 2001. Why I remember this time vividly is because it was tax season. In April 2001, Broadcom stock, it had at the peak reached 273 at the peak. So when we got bought, it was 124. At the peak, it was 273. And now April 2001, the stock had spiraled down to $35. And why I remember this is because it was tax season, and at tax season, I need to pay my taxes. And so why it's vivid for me is my $3.4 million quickly became a $68,000 debt. That's correct, $68,000. I owed the IRS $68,000 because I couldn't sell anything. Nothing was vested yet. We had a 4-year vesting period. And so I had to go into a payment plan with the IRS. Now, sometime around 2002, I remember hearing a sermon on tithing. What I learned was that everything that I have, my job, my family, my finances, all belong to God. And we are simply stewards of all these things. He has entrusted everything in our care. All of my finances belong to God, and all he asks is 10%, a tenth back to honor him. And when we honor him in our tithes, he will bless us financially. This is what I learned during this sermon. And so right around this time, October 2002, Broadcom's the lowest was down to $9.70 a share. The highest was $273, and the lowest was $9.70. And so it made no sense, after hearing this sermon, it made no sense, no logical sense to tithe right now. I have a huge debt, I have bills, I have expenses, I have a wife and kids I need to support. So how can I afford to give a tenth? But my wife and I, we prayed and we came to the decision that we need to honor God in our finances. So we decided to tithe no matter what. It was tough. Believe me, it was tough in the beginning, but we remained faithful. And now, before we realized it, we started to see God's financial blessings. Our stock was still pretty low, but God's financial blessings came in other ways. I started to get salary increases. I was getting bonuses. Some of the shares were vesting on a yearly schedule, and so I was able to sell some of my stock options. And so, of course, with the stock market, we have your ups and downs. And so I was able to key into some nice selling points. And so when the stock jumped to about $30 to $40, I would sell and have ways to start paying off my debt. And so eventually we were able to pay off the IRS in 2005. This was when I really realized the power of tithing, and it increased our faith in giving. In May of 2005, I got a promotion to manager. And with that, of course, I get a salary increase. I get more stock. And so there was a lot of financial blessings that God was providing me through those avenues. Jumping forward to 2013. Oh, I'm sorry. That was 2005. Now, 2009, I got another promotion. In 2009, I was promoted to senior manager. And with that, again, more salary increase, more stock options. Then let's jump forward to 2013. This is when God started to do some crazy stuff with our finances. Around the summer of 2013, Pastor Shine started to preach and share the vision of Israel. Joanna and I, we decided to bless Israel on September 15th, 2013. And give a monthly pledge. We pledged to give monthly to Israel. And so now, as time goes by, in March of 2014, I went to Israel Tres Dias, and I served at Israel Tres Dias number 7. When we decided to make a financial pledge to Israel back in September of 2013, the stock value for Broadcom was $25 a share. Now, after pledging to Israel and then going to Threstius, come to December 2014, the stock value is now at $43. And so we see this, the stock starting to climb from $25 to $43 within a span of 2 years, which is a great increase in stock value. Now, here's when things get even more crazy. Pastor Shine asked me to be the rector of Israel Threstius number 9 in 2015. And at that time, I asked Pastor Shine how much he estimated is needed to support this Threstius. And so the number he gave me was less than the number that I felt God was pressing on my heart to give to Threstius. And so what I decided to do is, you know what, if Israel Threstius support is this much, whatever remaining, I'm going to donate to English Threstius number 11. So EGTD number 11 happened in May of 2015. And this is when I saw an immediate blessing from my giving. On the last day of EGTD number 11, so this is May 27th, 2015, I received this text message in the morning from a coworker of mine. He said, have you seen what happened to the stock? And so I didn't think much of it. And I'm thinking, we're in Threstius, so I can't bother with this. I'm not even supposed to look at my phone. In any case, since the TD was not over, I just ignored the text. Now, after TD was over that night, I looked at the stocks, and sure enough, before TD, Broadcom stock was $47. At the end of TD, Broadcom stock hit $57. That's $10 gain that's over 21% in only one day. That is an amazing growth. And so it was like, what the heck happened? And so I looked at some news, and what happened is there was this press release that stated that a company called Avago would buy Broadcom for $37 billion. And this would be the biggest merger for chip makers ever. And so this was what happened, and it caused the stock to jump up. Now, the Avago Broadcom merger finally happened and was finalized in February of 2016. Broadcom stock value was $54 a share. Avago stock value was $133 a share. Now, there's a conversion that needs to happen with the stock. And so it wasn't simply that my $54 became $133. That's not what happened. So basically, if I had 100 shares, it would now become 41 shares. Total dollar amount is the same. So let's forget about $54 and let's just assume $133 moving forward. So now at $133 at the time of merger, February 2016. Now, for the sake of time, let's fast forward 4 years. We're going to see a tremendous blessing that happens within the 4 years. At the end of January 2020, I shared my testimony to the leaders of our ministry during our mini leaders retreat. January 2020, the stock value was $325. And so within 4 years, it went from 133 to 325. And so we see a tremendous amount of blessing that God has provided for me in my finances. And so now let's jump forward to 2020. Of course, in 2020, the COVID pandemic happened and the world was in panic. Many businesses took a big hit, but Broadcom did pretty well. A lot of our businesses in connectivity, and the world needed connectivity while we were working from home. And so now come to today, almost exactly 1 year ago from the Leaders Retreat where I shared my testimony. Broadcom was at 325 last year. As of Friday, January 29th, 2021, just before I recorded this testimony, Broadcom stock closed at $450. And so within the year, we see it jump from 325 to 450. God has blessed me tremendously as I have been faithful in my tithing, as I started to give to world missions, as I started to bless the nation of Israel. And so now most of what I have shared at this time is related to my stock, but that isn't the only way that God has blessed me through my finances. God has blessed me through the bonuses that I have received through my company, my salary increases, as well as dividends. Now, dividends was crazy. You know what? You don't have to do anything. It's like, you hear about money falling from the sky. This is as close as I can think of as money just appearing out of nowhere. By simply holding stock, we get a dividend of $3.25 a share. By simply holding the stock. And this happens quarterly. And so that happens 4 times a year. And so you can imagine how money can just fall from the sky and fall into your lap. And so this is my story. This is my story of tithing. And if you're not tithing, I highly encourage you to honor God in tithing faithfully. Remember that everything we have is God's. All of our finances belong to God. We are simply stewards of his finances. We need to honor God by giving 10% of what he has given us, to acknowledge that he is the Lord of our finances. He is the Lord of our lives. God is the wisest investor, and he will invest in those that honor him and share his heart for the lost souls. Okay. And so lastly, just a few things I just want to point out really quick. First, don't give to missions instead of tithes. Honor God with tithes first. Giving to missions is an extra on top of tithing. Okay. If you're not honoring God in your tithes, giving to missions is just an offering to make you feel good, to make you feel like you are doing God's work or serving God's work. Don't be deceived by the enemy. Thinking you are honoring God by giving to missions without honoring God first with our tithes, that's just not right. Okay, so let's honor God first in our tithings, and then let's give to missions so that you can see and experience God's exponential increase in your blessings in your financing. Okay, second thing I want to quickly share is please don't give with a credit card. Don't give your tithes or offering with the credit card. I know with online giving, we have an option to give with our credit cards, but please, it's crazy to think that you need to take out a debt in order to give God tithes. It just doesn't make sense. Average credit card interest rate is 18%. And so why are we acquiring 18% interest rate just to simply give 10% to God? One other thing to remember is Clover Give, our online giving system, charges 2.7% for credit cards as a convenience fee. And only 1% for bank account. So I highly encourage you to continue to give online if you can, and just simply use your bank account and try not to use your credit card. I know that credit cards give reward points, but you know what? That's not something that we should be doing. I understand that if you can pay your credit card off right away, then feel free to do so, but I'm not that type of person. I forget, and I always get hit with those interest charges. And so I highly encourage you guys to tithe and honor God. And so I hope and pray that everybody was blessed by this testimony, and I am eager to hear your own personal testimonies in your tithing and giving. So God bless you. I love you. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this.